Hello, this is part two of Module 11, Analyzing Data with Business Intelligence. I will be beginning with step number 6 on page EX720. I will be beginning with step 6. So I've already completed steps 1 through 5 in the part 1 video. This says for step 6, in the current sales worksheet, which is where I'm at right now, use the query editor to access the WR Data Access database file located wherever you saved it, and then do the following. So I'm going to go to the data ribbon. I'm going to click on Get Data from Database and click on From Microsoft Access Database. I'm going to navigate then to where I have saved my files, which I created a folder on my desktop called Chapter 11, and there is the WR data that I need. Now, if you need to pause this while you remember where you have saved it, feel free to do so, and then come back to the video once you have found the file. But then I'm going to click on Import, and this time it worked. I have more memory since I rebooted my machine, and that was the reason I had to stop after step number 5, but now it worked. All right, I'm going to use, it says, create a query that accesses the customer transaction table, and then do the following. So I'm going to click on Customer Transactions to select it. Over to the right, it shows me a preview. And then, just like I did for the CSV, I'm going to click on Transform Data. And then it says, do the following. Remove all of the columns except for the date and revenue columns. So I select Date by clicking on the word Date, hold down my Control key, and click on Revenue. Those are the only two columns. So then I go up here to Remove Columns, check the down arrow, and say Remove Other Columns to leave me with just the two columns that step A is calling for. Remove all of the columns except for the date and revenue. 6B, change the format of the date column from text to date. So I want to make sure that the date column is selected, and it's all shaded in green there. I'm going to go up here to where it says data type. I'm going to drop the arrow down and choose date instead of text. Okay, that takes care of 6B. 6C, create a new column named month containing the end of month date for each record in the table. So I'm going to go over to the tab that says Add Column and click on Add Column. And I'm going to come over here to the Date option on my ribbon and click the down arrow. And I'm going to choose Month and then End of Month. So I'm going to the Date option on the ribbon, on the Add Column ribbon. Date, go to Month, and pick End of Month. I'm going to click. Now they wanted this to be called Month. So I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to choose Rename and change it to Month and hit Enter. Okay, create a new column on step 6C. Create a new column named Month containing the end of month date for each record in the table. 6D, group the table by the values of the month column. So I'm going to go back to my home ribbon, and I'm going to click on Group By on my ribbon. Group By. It says to do it by month, which it already was selected for me, creating a new column called Monthly Revenue. So new column name, I wanted to call it Monthly space Revenue. Okay. Containing the sum, so operation, I'm going to drop the arrow down and pick sum of the revenue column. So I choose revenue in my column. Okay, so group the table by the values of the month column, creating a new column called monthly revenue containing the sum of the revenue column. Looks good to me. I click OK, and there it is right there. Perfect. Name the query monthly revenue. So I come over here to the query settings, and where it says name, I'm going to change it to monthly, I can spell, monthly revenue. That is step 6E. Name the query monthly revenue. Close and load the 2 columns and 24 rows from the query as a table into the current sales worksheet starting at cell A4. So again, I want to go to close and load. Use the drop down arrow. Don't just click on the button. Close and load to existing worksheet A4. Click OK. And we have the 2 columns and 24 rows of data. Step 6G. Format, yet again, make it look professional. Format the monthly revenue value as currency with no decimal places. So I select my numbers in the monthly revenue column. I go to the home ribbon, to the white box, to choose currency. And again, no decimal places. Okay, we are done with step number 6. Step number 7, create a forecast sheet, which is kind of like a chart, of the month and monthly revenue values through 12/31/2018. So I'm going to select A4 to B, and it wants me to go all the way down to, well, I'm going to select 2017 at this point. We'll deal with the 2018 aspect to it in just a little bit. Monthly revenues, values through 12/31/2018. Okay, we can only select this for right now. Okay, now I'm going to go to the Insert ribbon, and I click on, it wants me to do, oh, it's actually, I thought it was on the Insert ribbon. Let me see. We're looking for a forecast sheet. Actually, it's on the Data ribbon. My fault. Data ribbon, forecast sheet. Data ribbon, forecast sheet. I'm going to click on forecast sheet. Okay. There's a couple of things, though, it wants me to do here. It says create a forecast sheet of the month and monthly revenue values through 12/31/2018. That might be a typo. I'm not sure because we only have it through 2017. Except it, oh, see now, I'm having a brain aneurysm. It goes out an extra year. We're going to speculate. Right now, it's going out to 7/21. That's why it's called a forecast. We're going to make sure that it goes out to 12/31. In just a second here. Okay, sorry about that. Little brain problem. Assuming a 12-month seasonal trend in the data at a 95% confidence interval. Okay. So I'm going to go to options here, and I want to set the seasonality. It says to, let me read this, assuming a 12-month seasonal trend. So I'm going to click set manually, and I'm going to say to 12 months. Okay. There we go. And then it also says to do a 95% confidence interval, which it already is set for that. So let me see here. We've got forecast end. Let's pick that to say 12/31/2018. That'll take care of the issue that I was having a little bit earlier. There we go. Perfect. So let me read this again. Create a forecast sheet of the month and monthly revenue values through forecast end 12/31/2018. assuming a 12-month seasonal trend. We set them manually to 12, and a 95% confidence interval. Okay, I'm going to click Create, and we get a brand new sheet. I'm going to click this X here. We're going to close. We created a brand new sheet, which is our forecast sheet. Now let me continue on. Name the sheet containing the forecasted values as forecasted revenue. So I'm going to double click here and call this forecasted revenue. Hit enter. Okay, and move it to the move it after the current sales worksheet. So I'm going to click and drag it after current sales. There we go. Make sure they're in the proper order. Format the sheet so that the chart and values are easy to read and interpret. I think it looks just fine and dandy, so we're good to go with that. All right, step number 8. Use the query editor to create queries that load the following data from the WR Data Access database file located in the Excel 11 review folder into the data model, but only create a connection to the data. Do not create an Excel table. All right, so we're going to go back to data ribbon, get data from database. Hopefully this is going to work for me again. From Microsoft Access database, click on the database and click import. Keep my fingers crossed that I don't have to do a part 3. Oh, good. All right. The first one is from the customer transactions table. So I click on customer transactions. Again, I click on transform data. Nothing different from what we've done in the previous steps. It wants me to retrieve the order ID. Select that one. Hold down your control key. Date, store ID, and customer zip. Now, I didn't read further. It says change the data type of the date column from text to date. I'm going to do that first before I select all of my columns. So I'm going to go ahead, because I tried this earlier, and when I did it after I selected my columns, it actually gave me error messages for some of the other columns. So I'm not going to take that chance this time. So I'm going to click on date simply and do this first. I'm going to change the data type from text to date like we did earlier in another step. I go to data type text and I change it to date. I'm going to do that first. Then I'll select my columns. So I want order ID. I'm going to hold down my control key, select date, store ID, and customer zip. So I got to scroll over and find customer zip. Those are the only ones I want. So I'm going to remove the other columns by clicking the down arrow under remove columns and say remove other columns. There are the 4 that I want. Now I'm going to click the close and load button, down arrow, and I'm going to do close and load to. Because if you read the instructions at the very top, it says only create a connection to the data. So I'm going to check the box that says only create connection. And then I'm going to add this data to the data model. Check that box and click OK. And we will see it loading over here under my queries and connections. Okay. Let's hope that my memory is going to allow that to happen. And there it is, customer transactions. So that's step 8A. Step 8B. So I go back to data, get data from database, from Microsoft Access database, click on my database and click import. Again, keeping my fingers crossed that I have enough memory to do all of this. I click the items table this time for step 8B, transform data, following the kind of the same steps. This one wants item ID, hold down my control key, then it wants category, subcategory, and instrument. Again, I remove the columns, remove other columns so that I'm left with just those 4. Close the load drop-down arrow, close and load to, only create connection, add this data to the data model, click OK. Again, it's going to add it over here, and there it is, items. 8C, you got it, data ribbon, get data from database, from Microsoft Access Database. This one's coming from, well, first I got to bring the database in, click on my database, import. 8C is coming from the product purchases table. So I click on that. I click transform data. This one they want order ID, hold down my control key, item ID, and item revenue. Remove other columns, close and load to, only create connection, add this data to the data model. Click OK. And we have one more to do, 8D. Yes, back to data, get data from database, from Microsoft Access Database. Click on my database, click import. From the stores table, so I click on that one, click transform data. We want store ID, hold down your control key, store city, store state, excuse me. So store ID, store city, and store state. That's tough to say. Remove columns, remove other columns. We're left with just those 3. Close and load, drop down arrow, close and load to. Only create connection, add this data to the data model. Click OK. All right. That takes care of step number 8. I'm now on page EX721, and I'm on step number 9. In Power Pivot, connect the customer transactions table to the product purchases table. So we're setting what are called relationships. So I'm going to go to Power Pivot, and I'm going to click on Manage. Manage. Okay. And for this particular one, I believe I have to click on Diagram View. All right, so we're going to go ahead and click on Diagram View to set up my relationships between the different tables. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, let me click on Diagram View. All right. There's my tables. I'm going to maximize this so I see all 4 tables. There we go. And let me read the instructions for step number 9. In Power Pivot, connect the customer transactions, that's my first table, to the product purchases table through the order ID field. So I take order ID, I put my pointer right on top of it, I click and hold down the left side of my mouse, and I drag a line to order ID in product purchases. I let go of the left side of my mouse, and it creates a link between those 2 tables. Now that we know how to do that, the next one should be pretty easy. Okay, connect the product purchases table to the items table through the item ID field. So I take item ID, I click to item ID in the items table, let go of the left side of my mouse, and set a relationship between those 2 tables. And then do customer transactions to the stores table based on the store ID. So I take store ID, I click and hold down the left side of my mouse, drag the store ID here, let go of the left side of my mouse, and there we go. Okay. All right, so I'm going to close this now that I've done that. Let me just save my changes just in case. I'm going to close this. And I am now on step number 10. Again, I'm hoping that everything memory-wise is going to hold out for me here. I hate to do a part 3. I only got 3 steps to go. Step 10. Insert a pivot table in cell A4 of the sales summary worksheet. So let me go to sales summary and A4. And I'm going to go to the insert ribbon and I'm going to do pivot table. Okay. I'm going to make sure it says existing worksheet, summary, A4. So let me read the instructions. Insert a pivot table in cell A4 of the sales summary worksheet. Place the, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Wow, there we go. And it says, I'm going to close my query and connections box. I don't need that. I just need my pivot table fields. It says place the date field from the customer transactions table into the row area. So I'm going to click the arrow next to customer transactions, and I'm going to place date in the rows area. So I'm going to click and drag it down into the rows area and let go of the left side of my mouse, and it didn't take it. Let me try that again. Well, apparently it took it. It's over there. I don't know why it's not showing it to me in my box there, but we got it. Okay. Let's see. Place the sum of the item revenue field from the product purchases table into the values area. So let me find that table. There's product purchases. All right. And it wants item revenue, and I'm going to drag that into the values box. That's interesting. Date wasn't showing up in this now. Okay. Let's see. Insert a pivot table in cell A4 of the sales summary worksheet. Place the date field from the customer transactions table into the rows area. Done. Place the sum of the item revenue field from the product purchases table into the values area. Done. Change the name of the field to revenue. So I'm going to drop this arrow down and I'm going to go to value field settings. Here's where we could change the function if they wanted us to. Now, it's on sum, so we're right where we need to be. But if it had said average, we would click on average here. Here's the name, and they want me to call this revenue. So I'm going to type revenue there. All right. And click OK. And then, of course, all pivot table numbers should be formatted just like any other numbers. So it says display the values in currency format with no decimal places. So I'm going to highlight my revenues numbers all the way down. Lots of them. Lots of them. There we go. I'm even going to include the grand total. I'm going to go back to the home ribbon, and it specifies to do this as currency. I'm going to drop the arrow down and pick currency. And 0 decimal places. That's step number 10. Good job. Okay. Step 11. Return to Power Pivot. So I go back to Power Pivot. Okay. In the items table, create the products hierarchy containing the category subcategory. What in the world are they talking about? Here's what they're talking about. We're going to click on the Manage button because we want to go back to the diagram view. Okay? And what we want to do is it says create the products hierarchy containing the category, subcategory, and instrument fields. All right. So we're in the items table. So I would like you to right-click right on the word items, name in the table. Right-click on it. And you're going to go to Create Hierarchy. And when you create the hierarchy, they want us to call this particular hierarchy. Let me read the instructions again. in the items table, create the products hierarchy. So we're going to type in product as the name of this hierarchy that we're creating. Product. It says containing the category. So we're going to take category, click on it, hold down the left side of your mouse, and drag it down where it says drop columns here next to product. Okay, right there, let go, and it will add category there. Then it says to do subcategory, so I click and drag it down. Okay. Got subcategory there now. Continue to read my instructions and the instrument. So I click and drag it down as well. So I got those three fields. Return to Power Pivot. In the items table, create the products hierarchy containing the category, subcategory, and instrument fields in that order. In the customer transactions table, so we look right here. I'm going to right click, go to create hierarchy. This one they want create the dates hierarchy. So I'm going to type in dates. Okay. Hierarchy by containing the date year. Now, I'm just telling you, let's bring in date. I will explain this later. So don't worry that we're not seeing date year, date quarter, date month, and date fields. Let's just bring in date and drag it in, and I'll explain how to do that in a minute. Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, we are done with step number 11. Again, I'm going to save this. And now let's go to step 12, my last step for this review exercise. Well, actually, we got step 16. But again, we're going to skip steps 13, 14, and 15. Step 12 says return to the pivot table. So I'm going to close this. And I'm going to go back to my pivot table, which is called Sales Summary. Right here it is. And it says return to the pivot. Replace the fields in the rows area with the dates hierarchy. So it already has dates here, but let's go ahead and take that out by clicking and dragging it out. And I'm going to look for the dates hierarchy, which if you recall, that one was done. Let me read up above. We did dates hierarchy based on the customer transactions table. So I'm going to look for customers transaction. There it is. And I'm going to take dates, and I'm going to drag it down into the rows area. Now, to do this thing that we were supposed to have been able to do with the date year, date quarter, date month, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on any one of the dates here. And I'm going to go to group. Right click, go to group. Try that again. Why won't it let me group? Huh. What's going on with that? Let me just go back to the other date field. I'm going to drag that out. Let me bring date under more fields. So I click the more fields under customer transactions, and I'm going to go to date and drag that down. Now let me try to group it. Right click, group, and now it's going to take it. So we probably didn't want to remove dates from that area. So again, what I did was I cleared it out. I went to more fields, and I dragged that date down into rows. I right-clicked and went to grouping, and I'm going to select the different groups that they want. So let me read up there. It says they want date year. So I'm going to click on years. They want quarters. So I'm going to click on quarters and months. So I'm going to click on those three. Again, I right-clicked and went to grouping. Click OK. And there we have the groupings. Okay? A little bit different than what the steps are asking me to do, but we accomplished what we needed to do. Place the products hierarchy in the columns area. So I'm going to take, that one came from, if I look at the step above, we did that one from the items table. So I'm going to look for items. There it is. And I'm going to take the product hierarchy and drag it into the columns area. And there we go. Okay, The only other thing that we have for step 12 is a demonstration of how to do the drill downs, if you will. Now, if I click the plus sign next to drum sets, as you can see, it drills down, and I have crash, hi-hat, ice bell. Then if I click the plus sign next to hi-hat, you can continue to drill down in this particular pivot table based on our hierarchies. Pretty neat. And that's what step 12 is kind of asking you to do, is to drill down. And so I wanted to show you how to do that. Other than that, we are pretty well done. I'm going to save my hard work. And I'm going to skip steps 13, 14, and 15 and go to step 16. It says, well, we don't have the Power Map window open, but we're going to save and close our workbook. And that is the review exercise for Module 11, Analyzing Data with Business Intelligence. Thank you and have a great day. Thank you.